have a lot of identities that in parts of my life. So definitely like motherhood is one that is always really present for me, especially as my son is like getting into his tween years, and the role of motherhood is always evolving. It looks a lot different than it did when he was just a little baby. I see myself as a woman of color, as a Black woman, as a queer woman. I have really, over the past year or two, been in a journey exploring my identity of fatness as a fat woman, and really understanding how to liberate my body in a society that really likes to oppress and dislike fat bodies. I really see myself as somebody who is restored and rejuvenated and sustained by humor, and I really love the joy that comedy brings to my life. And I think, you know, in my past life, I like to think I was like a star on SNL or something, because comedy really brings a lot to my life. So I am a wife to my partner, and I really, like to think of myself as somebody who supports those that are in my community, and I'm somebody who really values community in all of its many forms that it takes. And so I really think that what I bring to communities is that laughter and fun, and I try not to take myself too seriously, and sometimes that works out for me and sometimes it doesn't. But so yeah, all those things make up different aspects of who I am. I think that I see myself as always evolving, and things that I have felt really steadfast about in the past have like totally gone to the wayside. And then I think there are parts of me that are really fixed and are part of who I am. And I think it's a both and. Um, I think that my value of community and not wanting to give in um, to isolation and independence can be really tempting, but being dedicated to being part of a community is something that's fixed and is part of who I am. But I really think that just this year I've been really evolving in terms of my stubbornness, which maybe has come with my first year of marriage. But things that I thought I would definitely never change, and was set in my ways about, I see them evolving and influencing who I am as a person. And yeah, I think that if I ever stop evolving or changing, that life might become a little bit dull. And so I think part of me is just also likes to challenge routine and not let myself get into a period of being stagnant. And so I just want to be continually growing. Mhm. Well, I think it's something I'm still learning to do. And I hope that we just get better at it with age. And then I also think working with young people that are younger than myself, you all teach me a lot all the time. And to see people that are younger than me who have maybe confidence that I didn't have when I was that age, is helping me learn more about living in my truth. And I think part of that is, um, being able to show up to places unapologetically with your whole self. And so, moving to New England, which is a predominantly white region of the country, and, there's certain pockets that are much more welcoming to different identities, and then other pockets that are not. And so, um, there are times where it can be really tempting to hide parts of who you are for your safety or to fit in. And so part of that is really having those internal dialogues for myself about if my safety is not at risk, even if it's uncomfortable, to still show up as my whole self. And obviously there's times where it's not safe and you have to sort of hide out of necessity, and that's really unfortunate, but it's the reality of some of the communities that we live in. But so when it's safe to do so, and even though it might feel a little uncomfortable or I might feel like the odd woman out, to still show up as my whole self. I think part of that goes to the other question that you all asked me just a few minutes ago too, about evolving or being fixed. And so, letting myself and giving myself the space to grow and change is also part of that. And to, sometimes I change my mind and something that I felt really strongly about is not the case today, and giving myself to do that. And so I think I'm still learning though how to best do that. So it's a work in progress. Mm, yeah, definitely. I think, I've always been fat my entire life. And I think part of that, there's a lot of people out there who have written about their experiences or share about them, and the pressure that you sometimes feel living in a fat body to have that shape your personality or shape how the world sees you in other ways. And so I think I've always been pretty outgoing and wanting to make friends and be seen as having a good sense of humor and being able to take a joke. And I think that started out as a coping mechanism for bullying about different parts of who I was, about being a child of color in a predominantly white school, and just wanting to, look how fun I am. And then you'll forget about the other parts of me that might be different, or not fit in. And so I think that has definitely influenced my personality. I really love to be liked. I mean, most of us do, I think, but I like to think that people will have fun around me, and that they will see me as somebody that they can confide in if they're struggling or having a difficult time, and that they will really feel like my friendship or a relationship with me is a safe place. And so I think that it definitely came from this feeling of, you know, feeling like I had to make up for the body that I was in. But now, as I'm getting older, it just it's evolved, and it's not so much a coping mechanism anymore, but just part of who I am that I really enjoy and like, and try to hold on to that. So I've always been a bit of like a silly person, and it's definitely something you can see in like pictures of me as a kid, that continues to today. Oh, let's see. I think that's an ongoing practice. I think there's days where I wake up and I really feel good, and then other days not so much. I think a day where I felt really proud and loved who I was giving birth to my son, and seeing like the huge feat that my body went through, and would not recommend it to do it all over again. But it was, in the moment, it was terrible, right? Like nobody wants to go through that pain. But then when you have the little baby at the end, you feel really proud, like, wow, my body did that. And so, my son's birthday is coming up just in 2 weeks, and it's always a day to celebrate him, but it also is a day for me to reflect on, what my body did and created, and the struggles of motherhood. And there isn't a manual about how to be a good mom, and we're all just sort of trying our best. And so but the day that you bring a life into the world is a really emotional day. And I think, how could you not love yourself and your body after all of that? And so that's the day that sticks out for me the most. I'm sure there's other less exciting days and moments, but that's the one that comes to mind. Yeah. Community is huge for me. It's really everything to me. I think my wife and I really did this move to New England with a big focus on, we know this will only work and we can really only be happy here if we are intentional about building community. And especially, you know, I was a teen parent and had my son when I was 18, and you know, being able to go through school and grad school without community would have been like nearly impossible and even more difficult than it was. And so I think that, you know, every aspect of my life, I really try to lean on my community, although sometimes it's hard to ask for help and you forget that you have this community that cares for you. And my mom was just telling me the other day that, you know, I undervalue how important I am to other people. And I think that's a tendency that we all sometimes have, that, you know, we want to give and give to communities, but forget that they will give back to us as well. Um, and so just the other day, I was having a lot of anxiety about an incident that had happened with a local neighbor, and just feeling like I don't know if I feel safe here. And then when I reached out to friends of mine and they were really able to reassure me, it just, you know, my mood completely turned 180 and I felt the anxiety fade away. And it took me like several hours of anxiety to reach out. And if I would have just done that right away, they probably could have comforted me right away. And so I think that it's just a reminder that we have to lean on our communities as much as we like to support our communities. And I really, you know, the role that I like to play in community is often, you know, I have a mothering tendency, and I really like to, you know, be that collective family for people that are in my community. A lot of folks that, you know, I'm close to don't have families in the traditional sense, or maybe they're not connected to their biological parents. And so having that unconditional love and knowing that when people are going through difficult times, that I'm still there for them and happy to chat. I love to give unsolicited advice. So I'm always happy to talk things through with people. And so, you know, that's how I like to show up in communities. Mm. Let's see. I think for me, it's really the the gift that is embracing all the things that we don't know. And so I think when I was going through school, I felt this pressure to act like I was an expert in everything, and you know, that there wasn't anything, you know, in a conversation that I couldn't just kind of play along like I knew about. But really, the more that I'm okay with saying like I don't know something, or you know, I am completely clueless about how to do this or that, the more I'm able to see the gifts and talents from other people. And I think when I reflect on like the political environment that we're in, or you know, the tension that exists in different sectors of society, to me it just really comes down a lot of times to people not wanting to admit that they don't know something, or that they've changed their mind. And so I read this phrase on Instagram that I've just been repeating to everybody, is to have the courage to learn in public. And that can be really challenging, because when you admit you've learned something, it's admitting that you didn't know something, and that can make you feel really vulnerable. And so, you know, for me, when I think about the human experience, it's just the immense gift we have to always be learning, and that we shouldn't hide away from that, but to embrace that. Ooh, this is not my strong suit, y'all. I'm really bad at taking time to pause and to let myself do nothing. I am, you know, feel like I'm always busy and I always want to commit to one more thing or another thing, or I see something really exciting and I want to be a part of that. And it really just comes from having a lot of really diverse interests. And So it's really, self-care is something that I really struggle with. But when I think about healing, what is coming out for me is learning how to establish and stick to boundaries, which is something that has always been really, really difficult, for me, and I know it's difficult for a lot of people. I grew up in the Midwest, where we are notoriously polite and, like to be extra accommodating, and you know, my wife is from Los Angeles, and where people have a little bit different way of operating and are a little bit more blunt and direct. And you know, someone will ask me a question about like some personal information, and my instinct is just to automatically answer it. So you know, if the cashier at a grocery store is like asking me, you know, intimate details about my life, I'll just start spilling my guts. And my wife will be like, you know, you don't have to answer that. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I don't, do I? And so when I think about healing and the trauma that I've experienced, I think is really coming from me not enforcing my boundaries. And so if I want to start to really heal from things, it's to stick to those boundaries. And that if that upsets somebody, then it's really their issue and not so much mine, that I'm just sticking by what I need to heal and to feel good about myself. And so, you know, doing that practice of boundary work is an ongoing practice, but something I'm striving towards. And part of those boundaries eventually will hopefully be self-care and making more time for myself, but work in progress on that as well. Huh. Definitely not. Definitely not. You know, if you would have told me that I would be um, not like a famous fashion designer, I never would have believed you. If you would have told me that I was going to be married to a woman, definitely not. We are conditioned, I think, from a really young age about like what the happy ever after and fairy tale tends to look like. And I definitely did not picture that my life partner would be who she is, even though I feel really lucky that she is who she is. Um, and we've talked a lot about this. When I thought of my ideal partner, I would think of somebody who was really protective and made me feel safe. And I've always grown up associating, you know, protection with masculine energy and men. And then now to be like, in, you know, having turned 30 and being reflective of, you know, why do I only associate feelings of being safe and protection with men, and really realizing the conditioning of you know, a patriarchal system, and starting to undo that. So I think little Caché would be really surprised. Hopefully she'd be happy, but um, yeah, I definitely never envisioned it. I you know, never thought I'd be a mom, and you know, I really think I had a completely different view, and that's not good or bad. It's just surprising, and life is still always surprising me. So I think that's a good thing. Mm. Yeah, I think a lot of times in the dark moments, it can be easy to see that my identities or you know, different marginalization has gotten in the way of some dreams that I really thought I wanted for myself. And you know, being raised by a single parent, and not having, you know, some of that security or jumping off point or financial security that some folks come into their professional lives having, could be like really frustrating when I was younger. But now when I think about my future and what I'm dreaming of, it looks a little bit different, I think, than I would have originally thought. I've been dreaming a lot about like a communal piece of land where like me and other people of color and queer people can live in like our own little tiny houses, and and have like a community garden and help each other out with our kids, and like that sounds like definitely nirvana for me, whereas like 5 years ago, I probably would have been like, I want a like beachfront mansion in Malibu. So I think it's really evolved, and I think that, you know, my identities have really had me thinking about what kinds of communities I feel safe in. And, you know, having a big luxurious home would be great, but would I really feel safe and nurtured in a place like that? I don't know. And so, you know, I also think about a lot about capitalism, and what that has made me think about, you know, what is success. And I think it's really easy to think about financial success, but when I think about feeling nourished and happy and content, I am trying to think of that, what that looks like, without thinking about materialistic things or financial success, and to just really have this sense of freedom and that my life is my own. And so I think that is what I'm ultimately working towards, is just the sense that I can, you know, go where I want to go and do what I want to do. And each day is really shaped by what I'm wanting and not what somebody else is wanting for me. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I know I know the feeling that I'm after. Mm, that is a really good one. I feel like a couple things. Um, well, two things really. I think it's to really amplify and listen to marginalized folks, whether that be people of color or queer people or trans people, both faculty, staff, and students. Um, and then really, I I really want to see the voices of, you know, the next generation really lifted up. I feel really proud when I talk to students in the center about, you know, it feels like they've been working to improve communities since like middle school. And it was something that I really didn't think about until I got to college. And so I'm really excited for what the generation after me is doing. And I think that we should really look to them, for our planning and our future now, and instead of waiting until they're our age. And so I'm really, really excited for what people who are in school now, in undergraduate school now, what they're going to do in 5-10 years. And I really just, I think UNH does a great job of getting student input, but I think there's always room for more. And so it's both the student piece and then the marginalized folks piece that I think it's easy for us to spend a lot of time listening and learning. But I think, you know, marginalized people have been telling us for a really long time what they need, and to just really let them lead the way and take their lead. It can be hard to give up the privilege, because when you're told that you have privilege, your instinct is to not give it up. But I really think if we can ask ourselves to do that, that we'll be better off for it. I know for me, I have a lot of privilege in a lot of different ways, and you know, as much as I can make room for others who don't have that privilege, I want to, and I hope others will come to feel that way if they don't right now already.